All right, guys, so today I'm going to be looking at and reviewing and playing with the new Cam Effects add-on. I've already used it. It's really cool, and I created this animation with it specifically using the bokeh effect that it uses. It's really cool. There's been a couple add-ons similar to this one, but I found this one to be just the most packed with content, and we're going to check it out. You can find it linked in the description. It's an affiliate link, so if you do choose to grab it, it does help support the channel. So I created a kind of dumbed down version of the animation you just saw. So it's just some hair particles with a noise texture, and then I use the mapping node to kind of push them through the hair, so you get this really cool wavy effect. So that's really the tutorial. I had a bunch of questions about how I created it on Instagram. That's pretty much it. Just some hair particles with a noise texture going through it. This is the node tree. So a little bit of transparency using cycles. Now this is a cycles only add-on. You can't do these really cool bokeh effects with Eevee, unfortunately. Eevee continues to kind of have these kind of like limitable. I'm trying to think of a word that I'm not saying, but that's just real-time engine. So you have to use cycles for this. So what happens here is I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to delete these two things. You're going to have your camera. And then what you'll do is once you have your camera set up how you like it to be, click Load Camera Effect, and it's going to go ahead and throw some automatic settings here in your camera settings. This is just a shortcut to the camera settings that exist over here. It just gives you kind of the necessary ones. So that's that. Now let's go to Bokeh. I'm going to click on the Bokeh icon, and boom, we already get Bokeh. And it's super, super cool. So if you go to all and you scroll, I believe there's over 100 to pick from. I don't remember the exact number, but I mean, we're still scrolling. These are all the categories, and I like how this is an add-on. This is from B Production. The last add-on from them that I reviewed was the Gobos that use the asset manager, the asset browser, and I really prefer these tools to be in the in panel, but that's my personal preference. Some people really like them to be asset browser, but I'm not sure how this would be asset browser, regardless. So these are all of your bokehs that you have selected, and this is the bokeh. So we're looking at this one right now. So say let's go ahead and pick this one. You see you can have this, and then you can play with the scale. That really makes it brighter or darker. I believe 1 is really working well for me. And then we can play with our focus distance. So now we have focused in on some of these wires. So if we go back, let's hope my recording is running smoothly, which is why I made a dumbed down version of it. You can see how some of these have these really cool look, And then we can go ahead and just render out an image, and you can kind of see how it looks as a final piece. Of course, it's a little noisy, so I'm using low sample count so this renders quick. But that's how that looks, which is something you cannot achieve default. So let's go ahead. My favorite ones are the Demi round, and then I like to use this one with a little bit of yellow in it. And if we go ahead and render that, you can see how cool it is. I mean, look at that. I believe Demi round is the one that I used in the animation I showed you at the beginning. It's honestly very simple, and you would just go ahead and install it through the zip file. It's very simple to install. On Blender Market, you get all the information about that, so big ups to them. A lot of add-ons don't provide sufficient information. This one did, and it's awesome. Of course, so you have your f-stop, which makes your bokeh bigger, as you can see. So we can make it big, but then it starts to kind of mess up the bigger you go. So there's really kind of a happy medium to find, and you don't want your bokeh to just be going into each other. You do have these exposure settings, so you can make it darker or brighter, which is something you have by default, but it's really nice to be able to see that right here very, very easily. And then you can also, really cool, transparent your bokeh. So if you're going to just render out a still image, using like After Effects, Photoshop, or compositing, whatever, very quickly you can do that here. And that's awesome. Really, really love that feature. I'm going to keep it transparent. Maybe that'll make my computer run quicker. So let's go ahead and look at some of these. You have 10 blades. Your blades, see how that's a hexagon? So if we go to say like 8 blades, now you have just an 8. You know, here we go. Notched is really cool. These silhouette these like thin silhouette ones are really cool. They're definitely hit or miss. I like how he has a thicker one too, just because the thinner one sometimes is too thin. Now look how you have all this detail in the bokeh. Of course, that's going to really rely on your render settings to see if you can actually see that. If we go to the product page, if you go to the CamFX product page, he shows you a lot of example renders where you can really see the detail in that bokeh. And a lot of details here. So like with CamFX, you have this beautiful bokeh without just regular bokeh. So you have a lot of really cool control. See, there's that one right there. And then using it here, you know, we can go ahead and animate that and just make it look awesome. And then go click back on the camera, you can go back to here. This is honestly a very simple add-on when it comes down to it. It's not very complicated. These square ones are awesome. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and make my strength 100 on the brightness to kind of make that a little bit more obvious. So we have these really cool looking like rectangular square ones. We have stars, which is super cool. But like notice this bokeh. It has this beautiful detail that you otherwise just would not get. And you can see this is how it originally looks. And then out of focus back in the distance, just beautiful bokeh. Abstract, these are fun. Where's abstract? There we go. So abstract, you have like this crazy sun. You have the moon, which is very interesting. This kind of looks like a car light, like the front light of a car. This one's weird. Let's see how that looks rendered. So that one's really cool. Like with this setup that I'm using right now with just transparency and lights, you can make really, really cool looping backgrounds, which is something that I'm personally obsessed with. So if I go here and make this 4D on the noise texture, and then I just loop it, and then you can just go ahead and loop this as a texture. Now you have a background, just like a looping animated background. So notice how nice this looks. Let's go ahead and give it a much higher sample count. So this is the bokeh with a higher sample count. It's just more clear. There is some motion blur. You would definitely do some denoising. But this is just something you can't achieve default. All right, so there's another really cool feature that CamFX comes with, and that is a lens dirt effect. So I got a HDRI just kind of loaded in here with the sun pointed at the camera, which is really going to make that lens dirt effect show really well. So maybe something like here, and then what you'll do is click on your camera again, load camera effect, click lens dirt, and then you're already going to see some dirt showing up. And of course, if you want to see that by itself, transparent, we have a lot more lens dirt there. So if we kind of rotate our camera, we can point it straight at the sun. So if we turn that transparency off, you can't see it very well. And then you can turn on that exposure like this. Oh, now we can really see that dirt. So this is the lens dirt function. We can use maybe fingerprints, and then you can play with your scale. And that is kind of a plane that's in front of what's happening here. Maybe some like that, just regular dirt, lens dirt 5. So this is another really cool feature that can really add some realism to whatever you're working on. I think these are my favorite. And then we have kind of lens dirt, just regular dirt here. And then again, if you want to just solo it out and use it as an overlay for something else, you can transparent that, just export it out as an asset. But it's pretty cool and it's pretty simple, and you can just have a lot of fun with these just plug and play add-ons. I mean, these are just some of the funnest things that the Blender community has to offer, are these little bitty, I wouldn't call this little bitty, these really cool plugins. I mean, how cool is this? So I really only have positive things to say about this. If I had some negative things to say, I would. But really, this is just awesome. You can turn on Bokeh too if you want. There's just so many really cool things this add-on can give you with realism, with style. I love it. It's really awesome. That's why I chose to review it. I don't really review add-ons I don't like. So again, if you want to get it, hit the link in the description and check it out. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.